Welcome, everyone. It's nice to be with you. Yes. Why don't we all just take a moment and close our eyes? Breathe deeply into the belly, feeling your feet on the earth, and arriving here fully in this moment. Give yourself permission to let go of the past and the future, and simply be here, breathing deeply and fully, inviting the heart to open more, the way a flower would open to the sunshine on a spring morning. Just gently deepening and grounding while simultaneously inviting the heart to open and to receive. Receiving your beauty, your divinity, your holiness. And if that's hard for you, I'm going to invite you just to soften and feel into the heart. It's this quiet radiance of goodness within the space of the heart. And just acknowledging this basic truth that you are good, that you are divine. So with each breath, just gently softening and opening. If any of you are struggling, I'm going to invite you to call forth the grace of God to pour into you, to touch you, to support you. Just inviting this presence of love forward. Yes. You can keep breathing in this way, just softening, relaxing, settling in deeply. Giving yourself permission to receive that which is greater. That which is greater. And your small egoic thoughts and personality. Can we invite your truth, your wisdom, your divinity and holiness to come forward? Inviting the grace of God, the strength, the power, the love, the light to come into you. With each breath, softening and receiving as I welcome you fully here. And so yes, so nice to be with each and every one of you. So nice to be here. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Mothers work so hard, and some of us, we had great mothers, and other of us, we didn't have such good moms, or they didn't know how to be moms. And if that's you, if you had a difficult childhood, a difficult life, I encourage you to open your heart to that which is greater than the parents you had. God the Father and God the Mother, inviting that support into you, to flow into you. I was at Mass this morning. I went to Catholic Mass with my wife and my little girl. It was Mother's Day, so my wife said, "Hey, let's go to church." I said, "Okay." We haven't been to church in, I guess, about a year since the pandemic. And as I walked inside and I sat down to say my prayers, I was connecting and opening, communing with the grace of God, the presence of God. And as I opened my eyes, I looked over to my right and I saw this big, beautiful stained glass window. And there was a picture of Jesus. And he was kneeling before an angel. And this angel, in the stained glass, was just shooting a beam of light, a beam of grace directly into the mind and the heart of Jesus. And I thought, oh, how sweet is that the Son of God, that he too is humble and opens himself to this grace. And then I looked at the stained glass right next to that picture. And I saw a depiction of Jesus on the cross. And I thought, my God, isn't that the experience of life here on planet Earth? We have these crosses that we bear. There's such brutality here and violence, racism, injustice, genocide, war, such destruction. And it was just so paradoxical, so telling of what life is like here on planet Earth. You can open yourself fully and receive this great blessing and be like Christ and be able to say, the kingdom of heaven is here all about the earth. Yet no one sees it. And then perhaps a couple days later, find yourself maybe not feeling a connection with grace, but feeling yourself nailed to a cross. And it's so true what he said, that the kingdom of heaven is here. Light is here, radiance is here, love, great compassion and wonder, immense spaciousness, just immense spaciousness, peace. And because no one sees it, it's for this reason that no one's connected to it, that we're able to do great violence to each other here on planet Earth. When you step out of truth, you step into ego. You step into ego. And normally that's that leads to suffering in one form or another. But I was so shocked again and again while just sitting there in the cathedral. I don't even know if it was planned, for the artist to put this vision of Christ receiving this grace. And then the next frame over was Christ on the cross. And I thought, my God, that is just how life is here. So brutal and yet so beautiful. So brutal and so beautiful. So just utterly shocked, by this world. By this world. One thing that's often overlooked in the great traditions is the very movement of evolution. That in theory, humanity is evolving out of darkness and into something greater. Into something greater. And as we evolve further, the kingdom of heaven and earth look more similar. But, at the beginning of time, life looked pretty chaotic. And I'll even say right now that, it appears that we're in a a pretty dark period, given the nature of the planet and how we still treat each other. And the great question is can all of us give ourselves to the intelligence and the wisdom of the heart, the compassion of the heart, so that we may grow into something greater, into something much greater than what we've known thus far. So anyways, one thing I wanted to bring forward was that in order for us to have a greater world, we have to be willing to give everything. Give everything. And by that I mean we must be willing to give up that which is lesser, that which is fearful, that which is angry, that which is violent, that which is righteous, and step into this greater intelligence. We have to allow ourselves to be led by something greater than righteousness. Because most human beings, they think righteousness is a step forward, which it's a step out of animal nature. But, for most of us, the way righteousness manifests is a real sharpness in our ego, a judgmentalness of ourself, for our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters. And can we move beyond the righteousness of our own mind through the path of humility and really allow yourself to be guided by this silent wisdom which resides in the heart? And so the great challenge is can we give everything that is lesser? Everything that is lesser. And step into that which is greater. That which is greater. And for some of us, it could be quite helpful to call upon God and ask for help and support in bringing a higher mind, a higher vital or emotional nature to transform us from the inside out. And that's the invitation here on this path. Because we want a true change, not just an individual enlightenment for ourselves. We want a true change in this world, where the very fabric of our nature, of our being, is transformed into something greater. So that God can truly use us, that the intelligence of life can truly use us. And the only way we'll step into this new world is if we give of ourselves. It's almost a hilarious thing for me, because so many people come to me and they say, Craig, I want to wake up. But often I want to ask, why do you want to wake up? I say, well, I want to be free. Why? Because I don't want to suffer. Oh, okay. And that's a fair reason. But it's a very egotistical reason. Like, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to suffer. If we truly want to be free, what we discover is that the doorway in is the doorway of service. It's a doorway of love. It has nothing to do with the I. It has nothing to do with the I and how you're feeling and what you want to feel. And I want more bliss and this and that. And true freedom is much greater than you wanting to have a really pleasant experience. And I don't say that in a mean way or harsh way. But I truly mean it. As my teacher used to laugh at me and he said, And Craig, you wake up and then you become a slave to God. You become a slave to God, not a slave to your egoic wants and needs and desires. You just go from one kind of slave to a different kind of slave. But when you're a slave to truth, I will admit it's a much greater life than being a slave to desire. So anyways, it's through giving of oneself that the egoic nature truly crumbles. But the more you focus on your wants, needs, and desires, in a greedy way, the further you get from the truth. The further you get from the truth. But I will say something quite paradoxical or seemingly contradictory. Back to my comment about, if you had a tough childhood, a tough parent, it's actually quite important that you really honor and validate your ego. Because, one of the gifts a good mother does and a good father does is they help you to develop a healthy ego. Keyword there is a healthy ego. When we don't have good parents, or or just if we have parents who are confused or don't know how to parent, the child grows up with a feeling of lack and deficiency. And then they become an adult who's feeling lack and deficiency. And that adult, before they let go of their ego, must really give themselves the love that they never got from mom or dad, so that they can develop fully and have a healthy sense of self, which we later surrender into a divine sense of self. So I hope that makes sense. It's unfortunate that in my job, when I remind individuals, to give up, to surrender the lower to the higher, most of the people who have the easiest time with renunciation are the ones who have unworthiness issues, and they actually need to receive more love instead of giving up, aspects of their egoic nature. They need to receive healthy love more fully than they need to let go. So, anyways, I welcome questions if anyone has a question. And in the meantime, I'll just get to some of the other questions. Or looks like Jordan raised his hand. Let me see if I can unmute Jordan. Hi, welcome, Jordan.
Hi, Craig. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah. What's
When
on
you
your...
were talking about the role of parents to help have a healthy ego, and you also talk about the question that I have is, what do you see the role of a teacher as? I've heard even gatherings like these, because I hear a lot of stories about your teacher and the role they play in your development. And now with access to the internet and so many different teachings, I feel like there's so many different ways to interact with teachers that might not be the traditional method.
Yeah.
And so how do you see in this modern age, what do you see the role of a teacher as? Is it still the same, or is there a different element now that there's more access to different teachings?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So the way I look at the role of a teacher is, I'm going to step way back And say from the perspective of mastery, like one of the gifts when you meet with a great master is they're able to sit with you and they're able to listen and feel into you and perceive what you need, what you need. And so, different teachers play different roles. Some teachers just play one role and they think their role is just say purely to awaken, purely to deconstruct the ego. Maybe that's a role. Some teachers, like if you go and study in a Buddhist tradition, sometimes it's to impart knowledge, or the dogma, the text, to train people in techniques and these types of things. But for me, I like to meet with individuals the way my teacher met with me. And together, just in that moment, we discover, what the need is. So if there's a role of the teacher, it's to find the need. What's the need in the student? Where are they at? And so my teacher said, meet them where they're at. Meet them where they're at. And see, Craig, see if you can offer them something one step above where they're at. Sometimes if, I'm teaching to a big crowd, I might give more of a lofty teaching, offer something, something quite high and absolute. But for many people in the group, I'll notice, oh, that just went right over their head. It didn't touch them at all. It didn't touch them. And so if I become more grounded and connected with them, and I look out into their eyes, and oftentimes, I'll just scan, the audience or, the individuals. I'll scan their heart chakra, their throat, their mind. Normally there's something going on here. And often I speak to this because if these areas are first blocked, it's hard to receive, the greater teaching, the greater transmission. And so oftentimes I work on that kind of level, is to open them up and to kind of clear the space. And then when the space is clear, then something greater can come in. And so, again, different teachers work in different ways. Like many of the bigger teachers, I don't know how to say that, the more popular teachers or famous teachers, they cannot meet with individuals. So they only teach to the audience. And so they might prepare something, they might have a formal teaching, and that's what they offer. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's what they offer. Like when I was at Mass today and listening to the priest, I thought, gosh, here's someone offering a very archaic teaching. The priest went on this story about, I think, people coming to Paul and wanting a blessing, and people being shocked that there was people there that were circumcised and uncircumcised. And it's like, what an archaic teaching. Now, if you know the history of that time, there was this big division between, say, those who were Jewish and then the non-Jews. And there was an idea, in the tradition at the time of, that say only the chosen people, the Jews, could receive the grace, not any normal Joe. But that's what the teachings of Jesus brought, that there was an inclusivity here for everyone. It didn't matter. It didn't matter, what culture you're from, that it's all welcome. That it's all welcome. And so, this is a beautiful question, Jordan. It's like, well, what is the role of the teacher? A big part of my role, and I don't speak about this too much, is me being silent and letting or inviting, allowing God to speak through me, to move through me, to act through me. And, God isn't a one-trick pony. With some individuals, they show up and I'm just their friend, and that's the most healing and and divinely appropriate thing for them. Like that's what they want. They want a mature friend on the path. Other people, they want to ask very specific questions about techniques and this type of thing. And because, I've practiced so much, I'm pretty good at answering those types of questions and offering support. But, my job as a teacher is never to reference my thinking mind. And so if someone asks me a question about technique, I'll feel into their question and say, well, where is their question coming from? Where is it coming from within them? A lot of people ask questions about technique. I need to do a lot less technique, more informal sitting and just opening and receiving. Oftentimes they have strong, powerful super egos. And so if I just referenced my thinking mind, the answer I gave them wouldn't be that helpful. But if I look at them and say, where is this question coming from? And so the way I was trained is, in a very traditional, say, guru-disciple relationship, where my teacher knew me intimately. And I'll say this, my teacher knows me better than anyone else knows me on the planet. He knows me better than my mother knows me. And that's no offense to my mother, great mom. But he saw me. He saw me from day one. He saw who I was and what I was. That's the other thing my teacher told me. He said, Craig, when you look at someone, know and experience their divinity. Like, know that you're speaking to God. Know that you're speaking to God. So some teachers have a real formal hierarchy, and there's all this bowing and prostrating and all that kind of thing. Of course, that's a little archaic now, or just outdated. But one of the things that I make sure I see first, I don't even have to try, so I shouldn't say make sure, but I just see people's divinity. And like Jordan, when you ask the question, I see your depth. I see your depth. I see your sincerity. I see something good within you. Now, of course, most of us have an egoic mask, and I can see those types of things as well. But I'm going to see the fact that you're God. And for me, that's, if we wanted to, make it a real pithy response to Jordan's question, like, what's the role of the teacher? To see, to honor, to acknowledge that the student is God. To see their divinity first and foremost. Because most of us here on planet Earth aren't walking around ever being seen as God. Now, there's a few times in life when we are seen as fully divine. Normally, it's the first day we're born, because when you see a newborn baby, it's just like, oh my gosh, it just opens the heart, it melts the heart. And all the grandmothers and the parents, and just everyone's like, the child is just radiating light. And so oftentimes we're seen as God in that moment. But then, if we're born in a hospital, we're poked and prodded with needles and all kinds of stuff. And so we quickly realize, oh, they're not seeing me as God. They're seeing me as a body that they're afraid is going to get sick and die right away. They're filling me full of shots and all kinds of stuff. And so then the rest of our life, we may may never feel as if anyone sees us as God. Now, there's another time when we fall in love for the first time, and someone actually sees our divinity. They just see our goodness, our radiance. Normally, that's necessary to fall in love. You just see someone's radiance. You're like, God, they're so beautiful. And then, of course, that has a short window as well. And so, for me, a great gift that a teacher can give is just to see the divinity in another, to see that, to acknowledge it. So I received that from my teacher, David, pretty much on a daily basis. And then when I met with Ajay for the first time, the fact that he took me seriously, that he looked at me, he just saw that I was like him. He even said this to me. He said, "You remind me of myself." And I took that as just such a great compliment. It just like went deep into my heart. And something inside relaxed. And I know, oh, here's someone who takes me seriously on this path, who sees my divinity, who sees my Buddha nature, who sees my Buddha nature, who sees that I am good. This is by far the most healing and awakening gift that we can give to another, is just to see their divinity, to see through it, to see through it. And I was with someone yesterday, and it was just a silly example of projection, but I was up on a wall climbing with someone, and I asked where they're from, and they said Colorado, and I said, "Oh, me too." And I told them, "Hey, I got to drive home tonight," and they were like, "Oh my God, that's got to be such a long drive." And they were from the furthest corner of Colorado away, like we were in the Utah desert. So they were in the northeast corner. They were from the northeast corner of Colorado. So they projected their travel time onto me. And I was like, so far away to Colorado. I'm like, we're 20 miles from the Colorado border. Like, I'm not far from home. Like, I'm not far from home. And see, all of us, we see each other. We tend to see each other through the lens of ego, and we project our ego, our experience onto another. But one of the great things that happens when we truly wake up, instead of projecting, our shadow or conditioning on another, we actually don't project, and we see our divinity directly, and we see their divinity directly. And it's a beautiful thing. And unfortunately, some teachers who are too invested in their hierarchical, however you say that, role of being the teacher. Some teachers, they put themselves up on a lion throne, and they see that they are the awakened one and everyone else is not. That they know and no one else in the room does. And for me, that does a great disservice. That's how cults are born. When we're with a teacher like that, oftentimes we could be a devotee of them just for lifetimes because they're awake and we're just this lowly human being. And it's one of the great things that Jesus brought forward, and unfortunately was quickly covered up by the Catholic Church. But one of the great things Jesus brought forward was basically, I am the Son and so are you. The so are you part got somehow erased, but the Father and I are one. And out of that was meant to be this truth that I'm just a normal carpenter. I woke up to the greatest divinity. So can you. So can you. One of the gifts that, again, my teacher Aji gave was he often just reminds me, Like, I'm just an ordinary guy, completely ordinary. Said I was just a kid who liked to ride a bike in California. He met his teacher and he just stayed with her for 14 years. And for me, that's a beautiful thing to see, that we don't have to be born a living saint. We don't have to be born a living saint. We don't have to be perfect in our thoughts, our deeds, and our behavior. That this divinity, it's inherent. It's inherent. And I've told this story often, that when I went to my teacher's house the first time, I was literally a filthy punk, filthy punk rock slash hippie with dreadlocks and big purple jeans and, shirt with a bunch of holes in it. And I looked about as wild and as crazy as you can imagine. My hair was probably, my hair's brown, but it's probably bleached blonde, and I just looked like a total nut. And he looked at me and he knew who I was. And there's no doubt that he knew, like, egoically, that I was a clown. I was just like just some young punk. Like, he saw that, but he could also cut through and he just saw something much, much deeper in me. And I knew it. I knew it the first time he looked at me. I was like, there's something powerful here. And I didn't know he was a spiritual teacher. I didn't know who or what he was. And I went to him actually for a job, to go help him, build, dig some holes and build some stuff. And 20 years later, I was still working for him. And now I just feel him in me. But anyways, so my teacher, like my teacher was everything to me. My teacher, David, he was literally like an adopted father. Because I lived, now at that time I lived, I guess still, about 1,500 miles from my parents. And I was in this little mountain town. And so he became my adopted father. And in a sense, he just gave me a second raising. And he just raised me again. And he taught me the ways of mastery. And so it was just tireless what he gave to me. It was just endless support and love. And sometimes he was really harsh, and that's what I was needed. Sometimes he was sweet as could be. And, oftentimes I'd be nervous because I wouldn't know what he was going to give me. And there was times when my ego really felt hurt by him because he challenged me to let go of that which is lesser. And he challenged me, he'd harass me, as he'd tell me what an idiot I was. And, he'd smack me a little bit on the back of my head. He'd shake me like, "What are you doing, Craig? Like, what are you doing? Who are you, Craig?" And he'd say, I'd be out painting this. I'd be painting the temple. "Who are you, Craig? Are you a painter?" I'd be thinking in my mind, in my ego, "I'm a painter." And I'd say, "No, David, I'm a child of God." I'd be up on a roof, with a nail gun, building the roof to the temple and nailing off the sheeting. "Who are you, Craig?" "I'm a master soul." It's like, "That's right, you're a master bee. You're something great." And he'd just look at me. He was one of these individuals who, I'd be with him and I'd have one single thought out of alignment. And he'd just stop us and say, "What are you thinking right now? Where did you step out of alignment?" And so, like, his role was, in a funny way, quite invasive. Like, he was in me from day one. I'd be driving down the road, not with him, being involved in some horrific, drama and chaos of relationship and struggle. And, I'd be just going spiraling out into the pit of darkness. And then he'd call me, say, Craig, what are you doing right now? I say, how do you know what I'm up to? Like, how do you know? But I knew it, I knew it. And so his role, my God, it was like he just lived in me, I guess. And so, it all depends. Jordan, it's like, what kind of teacher do you want? What kind of connection? Um, and do the stars align for that? Because sometimes we want uh, this great relationship, but sometimes God makes us do some work first. Like in the olden days, like you'd go to the Zen temple and they wouldn't let you in. They said, "I want to be a monk," and they're like, "We're just gonna lock all the doors, and we'll see if you're still here in a week, if you're willing to sit out in the cold and this and that." And so sometimes it's like that. I always forget that people don't have the kind of experience I had with my teacher. And so I tell people, well, if if you want to meet with me, if you want a relationship, get on my schedule. Get on my schedule, and we'll start talking with each other more intimately. And a lot of people in the modern age think that they can just learn everything from YouTube, and you can definitely receive a great transmission from YouTube and wonderful teachings. Um, but I'll acknowledge this about just our own humanity. Like I know and I knew that my egoic personality, like I knew like that I was a piece of work. I'll just use that flavorful language. And so I needed someone literally to hold my hand, to pick me up, to shake me upside down. I needed someone in my mind to straighten me out, to straighten me out. I needed someone to guide me because, I would real easily go left or right or backwards or whatever way. And I needed that. And my teacher showed up in that way for me, but I also, I met him in that. Because there was many times, along the way that I could have left. I easily could have left. And there's people that came all the time. And they'd stay for, one night, or they'd stay for, a year or 2 or 6 months. And then they'd go disappear. And there was nothing in my life that could keep me away. Just nothing. I mean, there was even days when, not days, there was a whole summer. So we live in Colorado, and in Colorado we have these big forest fires. And there was a summer when we were building a temple together, and we're up on on the mountain, on the hillside. And I want you to imagine us on one side of the valley, and then across the valley is a raging forest fire for, maybe, I don't know, 6 weeks. So you're actively seeing flames across the valley, and we were working in smoke. It was just terrible conditions. No one in their right mind would be up there building the temple. I say, David, you sure you want me to come and work today? You sure you want me to build this? He said, oh yeah, the Divine Mother said so. And I'd look at him like he's crazy. I'm like, we're building the temple, it's essentially building a house. And there's a forest fire right there, right there. And he'd say, oh yeah, the work's going on. And so I said, okay, like I'm committed to this. I'm committed. And so, he showed up for me and I showed up for him. And so another great question as well, like what's the role of the student? And for me, like I never even asked that question. I knew, like just knew in my heart, my job was to give everything. give everything. And people get real weird about that. They try to give up their possessions and be all monastic. The last thing God wants for many of us is our possessions. It's the last thing. It's not the first thing. That's the first thing people try to give up. Possessions are easy to let go of. But it's like my teacher said, can you give up your big fat ego? It's like, oh, okay. That's a little closer to home. Can you give up your ego? And when I say, give to the teacher, I mean, really what you're giving is to God. And you're really giving to yourself. Because if it's a good teacher, the teacher just shows you that you and him are one, you and they are one. You and it are one. And so anyways, beautiful question. Thanks for letting me just go on and on about that, Jordan. It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Jordan has something else to say. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Yeah, I think that was the heart of my question, which is, what is my role when I'm showing up here, and
Yeah.
not to anyone but to myself? Like, what is my role to myself here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I show up here, what's the intention? And when I hear stories about like the length of time you spend with your teacher or audio with his teacher, for me, I show up and I see the teacher as an excuse to connect with myself,
Beautiful.
and touch base and surrender things that aren't in alignment with that.
Yeah.
But when I hear these stories about these length of time, it's wondering, is there something more I should be including into my intention here? Should
Yeah.
I be adding in like an intention to cultivate a relationship?
Yeah.
Should I be, over time?
Yeah. 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 That's a good question. That's a question I'll put back onto you. Is just asking of yourself, like, do I need that? Do I need that? The beautiful thing about having a personal relationship with a teacher, and I guess I didn't mention this too much, is oftentimes they can point out your shadow and they can point out that which you cannot see. And that's a great skill, in a teacher. And of course, they have to be a good teacher to have that. And, Jordan brought up something beautiful. It's like, he's saying, well, he's going to show up and be fully honest with his intention, with what he's doing here, and that he's seeing the teacher as an excuse, to go inward more fully. So that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. You want to see yourself in the teacher. You want to see yourself in the teacher. And so that was well said, Jordan. That really touched my heart. And the thing about it is with a personal relationship, you want to feel called. Like when I met my teacher, it was just like I knew him. Like there wasn't any getting to know him. I mean, on the outside there was, but it was just like I knew him. I couldn't stay away. I couldn't stay away. And I had this idea of, I mean, in a funny way, after being with my teacher for maybe in a couple of years, and he just gave me all these books on Indian saints and gurus, these great ones. And so my spiritual superego started to project an idea of what a teacher was. And it meant they wore an orange robe and they lived in a monastery or an ashram in South India. And so, at some point, I told my teacher, like, hey, I'm going to India. I want to meet these giants. And when I went there and I met, some of the giants, I was actually incredibly let down because I realized, oh my God, like I literally live with a giant, work for a giant, and I traveled to the other side of the world. They speak a different language, and I had this whole idea of it's about the scene, it's about the orange robes, and it's about the beads, and it's about this and that, and I realized, oh, No, like what I have is giant. It's massive right here. And so, I encourage, any of us, if we want a relationship with a teacher, I look at a relationship with a teacher the same way I look at love. It's like, what does God bring you? Like, what do you want? What is God bringing you? And what are you giving? Like, what are you giving? So, like, well, what do I truly want? Do I want that connection? And when I show up, does it feel true? Does it feel true? Is there something in me that just, it should feel like home? It's like, oh yeah, like this feels good. There's a closeness here. Like there's an attraction between teacher and student. Just like a magnetism that like I could not stay away from my teacher. There's nothing you could have done to keep me away. It was just like, boom, we're attracted. Now, for some people, I'll say, like in their heart of hearts, they want that connection, but they have a real big fat ego, and that's getting in the way of the attraction really taking off or connecting. And so it's important to look at, like, what is my intention? What do I want? And then what am I doing? What do I want? And what am I doing? The fun example is like, well, I want to wake up. Well, why am I hanging out at the bar? It's like, oh, it's not the right place to be waking up. I want to wake up. Why am I chasing, women or cars or success? Like, what do I want? And often, I heard this from one of the Spirit Rock teachers. Um, it was something like, someone's like, well, do you have to meditate in order to wake up? And it's like, well, if you meditate and you go on retreats, it makes you more awakening prone, makes you more prone to truly awakening. It's just like anything. You want to be a great boxer. It's like, go study with a great master teacher. Go study with a great master teacher. I mean, you can learn a lot from books. You can learn a lot from YouTube. But unless we're doing, retreat time and have a very powerful connection with something, whether that's the direct experience of God or a lineage or something, oftentimes we tend just to we tend to be limited. We tend to be limited in the, I'm biting my tongue here because I don't want to say it's not going to happen, but if you just look at, like, well, statistically, who wakes up? It's like, again, it's just like, if you want to be a good boxer, you want to have a good coach. If you want to truly be awake, like truly be awake and actually live it, you want to study with a master. You want to study with someone great. And so, anyways, I'll say one last thing about that is often on the level of like soul contracts, like when you have a soul contract with someone on planet Earth, relationship, you can't stay away. There's just something here, this unfinished business. And that's how it was with me and my teacher. And I think that's how it is with most great students who go on to be deeply realized, because they had a contract with that teacher, with that tradition. And they said, this is a part of my path, and I'm serious about this. Occasionally there's individuals like Eckhart who just wake up without any teacher, but it's very rare. It's very rare. Even when I just think about that experience of when I was at church today and I saw Christ on the cross, just looking at how that how that boy suffered. Like, this is a messy world. And that's why I found it very helpful to have a teacher who actually knew me, versus many people have teachers who don't know them. They meet with their teacher once a year. Maybe they talk to their teacher once a year. They study the books and, the techniques and this and that. And you get really far that way. But your shadow can still, just spin out of control. You can be really aloof. You can have spiritual people have such crazy concepts in their head. Sometimes you meet a good teacher and they can just pop those bubbles real quick for you, And I met with a couple people this week and they literally broke into tears. I wish I met you so long ago. I suffered so long, which is a silly thought or belief system. And, I was like, oh, well, we're meeting now. It's good to meet you and be with you. I'm glad we're meeting now. And sometimes, that's why I say the stars have to align, you know. And I'll say this just from a place of humility. I had to spend a long time with my teacher because I was such an idiot. I say that, with a big smile. I was like, I was just an idiot. I was dedicated, but boy, I made a lot of poor life choices, And so my teacher just really was straightening me out. So anyways, uh, good chatting with you today, Jordan. So nice to see you. And what a beautiful heart. Yeah. Okay, looks like Jacob has a question. Let me see if I can press the button here. Are you here, Jacob?
Hi. Hi, Craig. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Hi, Jacob.
Good to be here again. My question today, obviously, brought up with this topic you're talking about, and being of service to others. I definitely feel that calling in my path. And obviously that in itself, I need to be accountable for myself to be in a good place, to be of service.
Yeah.
And maybe you can feel into this if, how do we listen to the calling if maybe we're doing too much practice compared to maybe we need to maybe go out into the world and take action and do certain things, and having maybe that balance of a spiritual practice, maybe meditation and maybe certain styles compared to, all right, now I need to, stop doing as much of that, and maybe feeling into how can we listen more to that calling within ourselves that's guiding us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So when I look at service work, it's important that we don't do service work from our mind, but rather look into our heart, look into our nature, and to ask a question like, well, what is the gift, Jacob, that God has given you? What is that gift? When we truly serve others, to do it selflessly, we want to be connected to our gift. And when it's connected to your gift, it's like that realm of practice and the realm of service, they melt into one. Because you're sharing of yourself. You're both being yourself, and that's what all practice ultimately points to, is you fully being you fully stepping into your divine nature. And then the service aspect of it is it's just like a gift that flows out of you. And so thinking about it, it's a fair place to start. But, we want our service to be, in a sense, like meditation. To be where it's just like, eventually it's a non-dual thing where, oh yeah, my meditative mind and how I'm receiving or with others or serving others, it's one and the same. It's one and the same. So one of the things to look for is, like, is your heart being called forward? Like, do you feel an ache inside where you're wanting to go out and to connect more fully from a place of truth, not from a place of desire? Oftentimes that gets mixed up, but from a place of truth. Is your heart calling you forward? Is God calling you forward? That's another thing to look for. It's like, it's the voice of God coming into you saying, hey, I need you to go and get to work for me. And, again, it won't be a proselytizing thing, but it should be just a really natural thing where your gift is being used. Where your gift is being used. It's just like flowing into the world. And so we want to look for that. And then, of course, it's very easy on the path to get, like, especially if you're good at meditation, just be like, oh, I love to sit here and meditate. I can just sit here for 8 hours. And I can sit here for 8 hours tomorrow and the next day. And I mean, that's how I was. I could just sit and sit and sit. And I served my teacher, but I didn't really want to do much for anyone else. But then when, I felt like, well, what is this really about? Like, I just felt so overflowing, with grace and freedom and bliss, and just this connection with God. I found like, oh, I'm just overflowing. It's just natural. It's coming natural to me. It doesn't take any effort. And then God started just sending me people very slowly. And that was helpful. God sent it slowly, because then I couldn't get a big head about it. But it just became a natural thing. And people would say, oh, you should just go talk to Craig. And, just things started just to, like, I didn't have to go out looking for it. It just started, coming to me. So really just feeling into it for yourself, Jacob. It's like, what is your gift? And is your gift, wanting to shine more fully in the world? Sometimes our gift is like in the incubation stage where it's like there's something here, like I can feel it, but it's not yet ready. And so we want to listen for that. And then also, the gift, when it is ready, oftentimes it feels like it's just bursting open. And if there's any pushiness in it or any I need to be seen or that kind of stuff, we want to be really careful with that, because that's where the spiritual ego tries to come in and play with it. But we want it just to be like in a naturalness. And I say this often, but normally the people who I encourage the most to go out, they have the type of ego that's holding themselves back. And the people who are too excited to go out and preach the good news of Jesus, they they need to hold themselves back. And so some people are overly confident, and they need to take it down a notch. They're wanting to serve or preach or share. And then others, who have something really good, and they hold themselves back for a long time. Like, oh, no, you need to go forward. It'll actually be healing for you to go forward and connecting more fully with others. So anyways, I hope there was something good there for you, Jacob. Yeah. All right. Let's hear from Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes, this is such an incredibly intimate space, and I just feel really thrilled that, I get to be here. And also, it's so funny to see Wesley on my right-hand side in his corpse pose, and then Kyle on my left-hand side in also his corpse pose. So it's a so relaxing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I
uh,
want that. I
um,
want people to feel just completely relaxed. You want to lay down, lay down. If you want to have perfect Zen posture, that's welcome too. And anything in between, it's all welcome. Yeah.
yes. Well, when you were answering the question for Jacob, I was laughing a lot because you sort of answered my question already.
Yeah.
I wrote you a little question, and I'll just read it.
Yeah.
It would save everybody time. Okay.
Okay.
So, hi Craig. I sometimes feel when I'm expressing my power, I'm taking something away from others. I feel this way especially when I'm with people who feel disempowered and exhausted by life, and this makes me hold myself back. Part of me feels so happy to express and share my gifts, but part of me feels uncomfortable because they are concerned with how my power could potentially hurt others. So, can you speak a little bit about your experience when it comes to um, expressing your power or your gifts? Oh, and before I mute myself, I just want to say that uh, I just I just feel so grateful and so thankful that I come across you guys, and I was just thinking that God, like how many lifetime, like how many past lives like do I have to go through to just be able to sit here right now and to not just be here but to just enjoy being here and to just feel like so much alive.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
all, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice to have you, Joe. Yeah. When you're in your truth and your power is shining, uh, from one perspective, you don't care what others think. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. It's like if Jesus was worried if he was going to be offensive, like he would have never opened his mouth. Like everywhere he went, he offended people. People literally spit on him. That's how offensive he was. So he was fully in his power and he brought a shocking teaching, but it was the truth. And his job was to follow the truth. And so we don't want to look to other people's egos and ask, like, is it okay if I say this thing I'm going to say? We want to look to our heart, to our truth. If the truth wants to speak, we let it be spoken. We let it be spoken. Now, from a egotistical perspective, even a healthy egotistical perspective, from an empathetic perspective, it can be sweet, to kind of feel into people in the room, be like, is it okay if I speak up now and I want to say this and I want to share myself with you? Like there's nothing wrong with that. But to truly share your gift, we don't ask permission. I look at a gift as the opposite. Our gift is actually an obligation. It's almost like imagine our gift was sweeping. And if we look at, say, the gift of sweeping, it's like God put a broom in our hand and wants us to sweep, wants us to sweep. And so I'm meaning that, like, if God gives you the gift, of brilliance, of, this light, the gift of singing, the gift of healing, it's actually a job that you have. Like you are obligated to do it. You're obligated to share it. Like I knew as a kid that this is what I would be doing. I knew it. Like if you ask my ego, well, what would Craig like to do? Like I'd like to sell bicycles, like sell smoothies, like I like bikes. I like coconuts, have a little coconut stand on the ocean somewhere. That's what my ego would be doing. But my truth is this. And so I'm obligated to this. I can't do anything but this. And, there's people who write mean things about me and, the YouTube comments and, call me a charlatan and a fraud and all kinds of things. And so my job is not to listen to them, not to check in with them. My job is to check in with the truth first and then share the gift. And again, the gift, it's not mine. Just like the broom belongs to God and was given to us. It said, sweep, sweep, speak, sing, whatever it is. It's like we're obligated, we're chained to that broom. There's this woman I know at my church, and I'll just say this, like, she has a pretty hard life, and she's gotten in some trouble and this and that. But God gave her a voice. And so she's obligated to sing. Like, that's what she has to do. So God just says, go forth and sing, my child. And so she sings. And so she's in the church choir. She leads the songs and this and that. And, like, I'd love to sing. God gave me this really rough, raspy sounding voice. And so, that's not the thing that I'm going to be doing. But God gave it to her. And so, her job is not to check in and say, do people like my song? Do you like this? Her job is just to share. And what you'll find is you will, from a tribal perspective, when you first step into your gift, you'll ruffle the feathers of the tribe. Because what happens is when we're all, playing the same game in the tribe, and one of us starts to wake up and shine more brightly, not because we're better than, but just purely because we are waking up and we shine more brightly. People around us, there'll be some people who will greatly cheer you on and support you. Some people will be really confused, like, I thought you were this person, not this other person. And then there'll be some people who, will get upset and actually try to pull you back down to their level. And they're not even doing it because they're bad or anything like that. That's just how tribes work. Tribes don't like it when you step out, and you take on a new role or new power, especially new power dynamic. It's a confusing thing. It's confusing for the individuals. Like, am I allowed to say this? Am I allowed to be great? And I tell you, if there's one sin, if you want to really upset God, be the opposite of great. Be the opposite of your divinity. If you want to upset God, just, stay stuck in unworthiness the rest of your life. Be small. You really want to, I'm going to go as far as say this. You really want to piss God off? Wake up to something great within your divinity and then spend the rest of your life dismissing it and downplaying it, acting like it didn't happen. Because God's just trying to just push you more and more into the light and show you, you are this great thing. You are my child. You are so beautiful. And if you ever have a kid who's just so beautiful and you love the kid so much, and the kids, got their head down, kicking the dirt, I'm nothing, I'm no good, I hate myself. It's like, it's heartbreaking to the parent. And so the same way, it's heartbreaking to God if you do not shine. So God gave you a gift. Please shine it. Please shine it. And if the people around you, if they don't appreciate it, that's okay. They'll move on and you'll move on. And sometimes we have to ask God, will you connect me? Will you connect me, to those you want me to do business with? Will you connect me, with my, like you said, my Sangha, with my support, my new friends? Will you connect me with, those who I'm meant to inspire and be inspired by? Will you connect me, Lord? Yeah. Beautiful question, Joe. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. It's a funny thing. I had that thing too where I was like, am I really allowed to say this? You know, am I really allowed to be this big? It took me a lot of time just to allow myself to take up space in the room. I was too busy worried about how everyone was feeling. Okay. Let's see here. A lot of questions. I better hurry up here. Hi, Craig. In 2014, I had a spiritual experience along with a complete change in lifestyle. Took place for over a year and a half until a downward spiral began. 4 years, I've been in unimaginable suffering. I've had chronic anxiety, agitation, disorientation, disassociation, pain. Lost all ability to function and no safety. I'm physically, financially, mentally, emotionally, and socially at rock bottom. I know by now that I'm suffering from complex trauma. Conventional approaches have not helped. I've reached out to anything I could in my surroundings. It has really come to the basics of saving my life now. Half a year ago, I met my now partner here in the midst of it. We both were fully unprepared. We feel like having met the person we want to share life with. My partner has a basic stability in life, but has struggles. We live in different countries. It is heart-wrenching. Any suggestions how I could move forward? Thank you. Wow, yeah, that's a big question. Yeah, so this is a question where we want to bring forth the grace of God. So when you look out at life and you see the impossible, an impossible distance, or an impossible challenge, when it just makes no sense to the ego, when God brings you to your knees, the only thing we can do is reach up to God and say, God, you show me. You show me the way. You show me how this works. You show me, Lord, how this story ends or how this chapter ends and a new chapter begins. You show me, God. You come into my heart. You come into my life. You come into my practical reality and you show me. And so I encourage you to challenge God, to call forth God, and not to lose faith. If it's true love, it's meant to be. If it's true love with a soul contract, it's meant to be, we're meant to be close. We're meant to be close together. And so this seems like there's something out of alignment here. And sometimes we have to, literally wait for the stars to align. There's some karma that's, being worked off, or some other things aligning over here that need to fall into place. Sometimes God makes us wait because there's something there for us. But all the while, I would call out to God, with total faith, because there's love here. So you have faith and love, faith in it working out. And then, in a sense, demanding God, challenging God. You show me. You show me how this puzzle fits together. And this is a game I'll say that God plays, is God often gives us a challenge like this. And our mind is saying, oh, this doesn't make sense. This won't work. It won't work. And really we're on, the path of trust, where God gives us something great, but it's not fully in our life. And so we have the choice to believe in the ego, which says, well, here's the practicality, it'll never work, or to have a leap of faith and say, God, I know this desire is true. You show me the way. You show me how this works out. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. I'll just scan the other ones. Okay. Someone asked me a question about, Craig, where does truth reside? Not my truth or yours, but truth. Wow, that's a powerful question. So truth is what I call a realm of divinity. a realm of divinity. And as you step into this realm, you'll feel it. It's like a column of light. It's this immensely powerful force. And it's undeniable. It's not here, it's not there, it's not thought about, it's not dogma. It's not in the past, and it's not in the future. It's in this moment fully. The truth, where does it reside? It's a whole divine realm. And it resides everywhere. But you won't notice it unless you connect to it. Unless you connect to it. So the doorway to truth, most people look in the mind, and that's the mistake they make. But when the mind is silent and the heart is open and the belly is grounded, you'll feel it'll just come in. It's just like boom. You'll feel this pillar within you. And it's unmistakable. So it is a whole realm we can connect to. And so just like right now, we can connect to the realm of spaciousness. Oh, wow, there's so much spacious expansiveness here. I hope all of you are feeling as much light as I'm feeling. So we're connected to the realm of light. When you step into the realm of truth, it's just like, boom. It settles in you. And it's undeniable. It's undeniable. Where does truth reside? Yeah. Not in the mind. That's a biggest mistake everyone makes. They look up in their head for the truth. If when you look up in your head, it should be empty. That's the doorway to truth. This is empty mind. Okay. Hi, Craig. Talking about chakras, you say that any chakra has its own intelligence, and any chakra is an expression of our divinity. I don't know if it's just my perception, but watching your videos, it looks like you address over and over again that the heart chakra, and you invite us to feel what is in our heart. Why is that? Is there a kind of supremacy, priority to the heart? Yeah, there is. The heart chakra, it's just a massive power center. And does it have the authority? Yeah. It's the heart and the belly that are the big ones. They're the one that like carry the most, just like weight to them, the most power. Of course, the third eye is just fully open, just empty in all directions, and massive. But the heart is really the depth of what we are. Like, and if you look at like when someone introduces themselves, they say, "Hey, I am." They touch their heart chakra. So it's just a recognition. None of us say, "I am," pointing to the mind, even though that's where most of the thinking happens, and there's so much personality and thoughts and beliefs up here. But everyone goes, "I am." Every culture all around the world. You go to, some tribe that's never seen modern technology, and, they'll touch their heart and introduce themselves. Because this is our power center. It's where the soul resides. And so is it true? All 7 chakra centers, they all have like one of these realms of divinity, like truth that I was speaking about. They are massive realms that you can open to with massive intelligence, brilliance, light, and space. But yeah, the heart's the biggest, the heart and the belly. And again, when you really start opening to them, you see all of them are really big, but just the heart in particular tends to be the seat of the soul. Okay. I hope that was helpful. And a good question is well, what's your relationship to your heart? Another question is, do you have a bias? A bias. And if so, is that bias coming from a place of truth, or is that bias coming from a place of egoic defendedness? Like a lot of intellectuals really hang out in their head. So they have a bias to the third eye and a bias toward this center. But when they get to know themselves, they might be like, oh, I'm this deeply sensitive, intuitive, heartfelt person. I've just been terrified to be this my whole life. because I was this way with my father or mother. And, they told me I wasn't allowed to be that sensitive, or I wasn't allowed to cry or feel so much. And so then I hid out in my mind the rest of my life. It's a very common mistake. Very common mistake. Okay. Let's see if I can get these questions in before it's too late. Hi, Craig. I've recently been connected with a lady, I love the relationship questions, who is in total distress. It seems to me that her kundalini has awakened. She's going through a lot of physical symptoms. It's consistent. It's constant. Besides the physical, she's convinced that people have taken over her body and are trying to hurt her. I've tried to calm her down. Oh boy. Okay, sounds like she's going into delusion and she's really struggling. Yeah, so Adrian, it just sounds like she needs some greater support. So she probably needs lots of different types of support. Sometimes if we're starting to feel delusional, sometimes it's helpful to temporarily see a psychiatrist and just get on some medication just to calm things down. If we're going full-blown delusional, we probably want to get on something. Or just get great support. So a good counselor, therapist, healer, body worker. Of course, you're, absolutely helpful. But it sounds like she's struggling and spinning out. Sometimes, we just go through a dark night of the soul and we just need a little bit of time to spin out of control. And if you can hold space for her, that's a great gift you can give someone. It's just to hold space and believe in her divinity. Not believe in her delusions and her, I'll just say this word, her craziness. We all get a little crazy sometimes. But one of the great gifts we can give another is to believe in their divinity despite what their human self is going through, is to not give up on her. Anything you can do to get her grounded, of course, is going to be helpful. And sometimes when people are really spinning out, especially with kundalini stuff, helping her just step away from any kind of spiritual practice, dogma, just unplugging fully from spirituality for a day, a week, a month, and just getting her grounded back on planet Earth, and then slowly plugging back into meditation or yoga, and making sure there's nothing that's overstimulating her nervous system. Like some practices are overstimulating. So if you want to plug her into a spiritual practice, it's anything that'll calm her system down instead of, having more Shakti. We want her being connected more to the earth, getting her out into nature, maybe out of New York City, would be helpful. So I hope there was something there helpful, Adrian. Okay. Here's one from Mark. Hi, Craig. It seems like my kundalini symptoms have grounded a lot more recently, which is a welcome relief. Now, here's kind of an opposite question. However, my heart doesn't feel as open as it did in the middle of my awakening experience. Is it a good sign? Is it a good sign that the kundalini sensations have integrated, or have I shut down in some way, and am I blocking it out? Yeah. Yeah. So, Mark, what I'm going to invite you to do, my friend, is to feel into your heart and just to feel to check in. Is there any heaviness there? Is there any heaviness there? And if so, ask, what is it about? What is it about? Is there numbness? Is there deadness? Is there someone you need to forgive? Do you need to forgive yourself? Do you need to forgive a former partner? Or, a father, mother, sister, brother? Sometimes we can, wake up in this massive way, and we get to a place, where everything's really bright, and then all of a sudden there's like a heavy blanket that seemingly like falls on us or falls into the heart. Like, God, what is this? My heart just feels so heavy. And God uses the energy of awakening to uplift us, to inspire us, to bring us into new realms. But God also uses the energies of awakening to heal us. And so sometimes the brilliance of awakening brings forth old layers of pain or trauma or confusion. And sometimes they're very subtle. They're like deeply unconscious. We don't even notice them, except for they show up just in this like kind of like a deadness in the heart or a numbness. And so when we're awake and we're moving along the path, if there's numbness in our heart, that means we need to do some work there. We need to feel into our heart, sit with our heart, and ask, well, like, what is this about? God gave me this bright heart, and if it's not radiating with divinity, if there's heaviness there, it's important to ask, what is this about? And please don't in any way blame or judge yourself. But you look at the experience of pain and say, well, what is this one who's hurting? What does he need? Like, what does this one need? Like, what does she need? Oh, she needs more compassion. She needs softness. And she needs forgiveness. Or she needs to be seen. Sometimes we can progress really far along the path, but if we ignore our gift and our truth, the heart will shut down. The heart will shut down because the heart's like, hey, I'm supposed to be shining, but no one's letting me shine fully, so I'm going to shut down just to get your attention. So you can look at like, what am I missing here? I feel peace, I feel strength, but I don't feel brilliance. I'm not sharing my gift. I'm not doing my work in the world. So if you're a deeply awakened person and you're like, well, I'm just going to work at a car wash, your heart will shut down. It's supposed to shut down. Because your heart will start to ache because it'll say, hey, I'm not living my truth. Because the heart is meant to be brilliant and shining and eventually being of service. Mark, I hope that was helpful. Let's see. There's one more here. Hi, Craig. How do you know what our gifts are? And how do you know what our gifts are and how do they shine? You were just talking about this. So with your gift, the thing that I invite people to look at is, what are you naturally good at? What are you naturally good at? What comes natural to you? What do you know in your heart of hearts that you are meant to do, meant to be, meant to offer? And people make the mistake of oftentimes thinking like these great things like, I'm meant to be a pop star and I'm meant to be an NBA player. No, it's like not that kind of thing. But just like, what's in your heart? And if you look at your relationships of love, like, how does your love easily connect with another? How does it easily connect with another? Like, I'll give another example of one of the ways, like, I have zero gift in is the gift of art. It's just not my thing. It's just like, I can't do art and I can't sing. Like, those are not my gifts. And so I'm not going to be hanging out with other singers and singing and playing music. And like my wife, she makes beautiful art. Like this last Friday, she went to a school of first graders and she brought glitter and paint and just wildness. And she's just throwing glitter and paint and just having so much fun. The kids were being all wild. And they're just like, they're just such beauty there, such radiance. She was in her glory with these kids, in her glory with the kids. And so like that's her gift. And me, like if I'm in a room with a bunch of kids, I'm just gonna be telling jokes and messing with them. Like I'm not gonna be doing art. I'm gonna be, pulling their leg and telling them I'm Santa Claus's brother or something, something nutty, and just seeing if I can get because so that's my gift. My gift is I can connect with them in a not serious way. Now my daughter's first grade teacher, her kindergarten teacher, her gift was like organization and alignment and structure. And so, those kids walked into this little Catholic school and they're all wild as could be on the first day of school. And, all the parents were nervous, like the kids aren't going to be behaved and this and that. And right away, she brought all those kids just into alignment, just 25 little boys and girls. She said, if you can hear me, put your finger on your nose. And every little boy and girl went boom like this. And even I did it. I was like, oh my God, this teacher, she's telling us to put our finger on our nose. That's what we're doing. Because so she had that gift of just getting everyone's attention to look at her, and she was staying in her power. And she was going to take these wild kids and begin to teach them their ABCs and teach them how to cooperate and not just be, so wild and crazy. So you have to feel like, what are you naturally good at, Hannah? What are you naturally good at? What comes easy to you? A different way to ask the question, like from a psychological perspective, like, if you had all the money in the world and you could just, you had all your desires satisfied, like what would you spend your time doing? What would it be doing? Not egoically, like me in my bicycle shop, or coconut stand, but like what would your heart just want to do? How does it want to give and serve? And so to feel into that, and it doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it's just, being the sweet one in the room, being the peacemaker. Sometimes it's just shining your light in a real silent way. Not all of us are meant to be, Dr. Martin Luther King, just out there with this booming voice and this power and gathering up the people. Not all of us are meant to be Gandhi. So anyways, hope that was helpful for you. If I missed your question, please forgive me. I was getting late into the night. So I would like just to do this before we're done. I'm going to invite everyone to close their eyes. Just opening your heart and feeling into the heart. Just join me in noticing how much light is here. How much love is here for you. How much light is here. How much love is here for you. To let that in, soak that in. And invite this light and this love to move you. To move you. To guide you. To live through you. This is our ongoing prayer, Lord. May we be of service to the highest. May we be of service to the highest. And so much love to each and every one of you. Thank you for your generosity, your support, your donations. Thank you for sharing your heart with me. So nice to see you, and we'll see you all next time. Good night, everyone. Bye for now.